So you know I was humiliated by Marshadow last time. So when I knew I had to play another game, because now I'm in elimination territory, right? I was like, not letting this happen. So I tried a little bit harder with my team building this week. I was like, I'm gonna keep the things that worked and I'm gonna change the things that didn't. And what I'm gonna do is, right, I'm gonna make a team that's not weak to Marshadow and doesn't really care about getting hit, having to worry about like a focus dash or whatever. So weirdly enough, despite being weak to Ghost, Necrozma actually takes Spectral Thief pretty well. Like if you're max, all right, I'll get back to this. Hold on. Yeah, if you're max defense, it's a free hit KO still, so you can just recover out of it and it's fine. Especially with Rocky Helmet, it's chipping it and like that's the main kind of thing. So I kept the Marshadow because that's what I liked. I kept the Thingo, the Yveltal, I kept the Zacian, and I kept the Kyogre. I changed Dialga to a Necrozma, and I changed Groudon to a Landorus. Even though the Groudon was quite funny, I wanted something that could max. Because obviously I lost Dialga. So this team ignored basically most of the natures, right? Because I have no idea. This was one of the teams that Showdown deleted again. So I don't actually remember if Earthquake was the last attack on Necrozma, and I know it wasn't Adamant. I just copy and pasted another Necrozma from somewhere, just to have it there. It was Impish, and it was basically max defense, like Impish, because you need to be to take on Zacian. Same Yveltal set. My Zacian is really bulky. I'm not showing off the spread because I made it and it's special, but it takes Water Spout basically. So you always 2 a KO with Play Rough and the quick attack. Actually, I think Play Rough maybe just KOs not bulk Kyogre. I don't really know. I don't remember. And I made Landorus. Oops. I made Landorus just my sweeper. It might also be Jolly because I don't like anything with a speed boosting Dynamax to be slow, because like it seems kind of pointless to not outspeed Zacian and Calyrex at +1. Like it seems detrimental. So it probably was Jolly. But yeah, because I lost last week as well, I need to win this because otherwise I don't think I get anything points wise. But we'll see what happens. Again, not very happy to see a proper team. It's really hoping for no restricted teams. Although I played in a room tour and I played a no restricted team and I almost got swept by an Entei, which was not fun. Not with this team, it was with a different team. And actually way better team, which I will showcase at some point in time because I saved a couple of replays and they're really good. But anyways, so when I see this, I'm like, I don't like Dialga that much. I know I've got Landorus, but I need to be in the right position. And if it's got an ice move, I just die. And I also don't like seeing this Hippo because I literally only have Kyogre for it. And for those of you who don't play 3v3, Hippo likes to just sit on the field and click yawn. And then you just keep switching and you just keep yawning. And eventually rocks go up and you take sand chip and nothing really ends up happening. So it's annoying. So I don't really factor in the fact that they might lead the Hippo. And what was I expecting? No, I lead for a Zacian. I went for a Zacian lead because I know that because my Marshadow is Adamant, I would always KO. And then I figured a +1 Marshadow is going to do a lot of damage, so seems like a good way. But they smartly led Hippo, which kind of stonewalls everything I lead that's not Kyogre. So I switch out in fear, and they go for the smart yawn. Which begins the trap of pain, where I'm like, well, I don't want Landorus to go to sleep because I need it, and I just sort of switch around awkwardly. So they break the chain, which is good for me because it means that I get a free hit off before that they go for yawn. They needed to do this because that's how you create damage with the yawn train. But like that's good for me because it means, because Yveltal, even though mine's not very invested because it's assault vest and it's bulky and it's built to just stonewall Calyrex, it's still gonna do, because Hippo basically has to run max HP, max defense, because otherwise it just doesn't beat Zacian, which is like one of the main things it does. So like Dark Pulse, Dark Aura boosted, it's still basically Life Orb, Dark Aura, and Life Orb and Dark Aura are basically the same thing, so it's still basically a Life Orb, Dark Pulse. So I'm like, okay, well, I can massively chunk this thing as they go for Yawn. Unfortunately, it's Citrus, so that was a bit annoying. But they go for Whirlwind, which was actually better for me because it means that I don't have to kind of pivot around and then sacrifice something to the sleep. So the yawn would have meant that I would have to switch, the Yawn again, and then I'd basically have to decide something has to go to sleep, and I'd only be able to get one hit off on the Hippo. But the Whirlwind put me into a position where it's like, well, now I'm guaranteed 2 hits, because like at this point I'm like, well, my sash is broken, so Marshadow is basically useless. I'm just gonna go for 2 close combats. The crit there didn't matter because if you take 33% off of that, it's gonna 2 at KO anyways, so it's fine. But yeah, because I'm in now and not yawned, it means that the turn that they spend wasting going for Yawn means that I can remove the Hippo, which to me was the biggest issue, because now they can't just kind of, you know, recover spam and get really annoying. And I'm at this point in time like, oh, I don't need Marshadow, so I'm just gonna let it go to sleep, and hopefully I can learn something. Like, you know, like a speak tier, like maybe I'll find out where a sash is, maybe it's Scarf Yveltal, maybe it's Scarf Lunala or something like that, you know. So they bring in Zacian, and again, like I said, not overly fussed by losing Marshadow. But what I do here is I don't go for Shadow Sneak, I go for the Spectral Thief, because I'm adamant Marshadow, and this is a great way to find out what kind of bulk on the Zacian I'm expecting, because like the bulky ones that live Kyogre under speed adamant Marshadow, whereas the faster ones are like no bulk. So I attack first, you know, it says I'm asleep, but you know, the fact that it said that before Zacian moves means that my Marshadow is faster. So what I do here is I go into Zacian. I go into Landorus on the Zacian. Now, I have a little bit of bulk on my Lando because I like to be able to live Behemoth Blades. I know that I know that I will live the Behemoth Blade, like guarantee. I know that I have enough HP investment to do that. But what I don't know at the moment is if I have enough HP to live that and the Life Orb recoil, because the way I'm seeing it is now is right. I need to max this Landorus because if they've got if they've got Lunala in the back, then Yveltal takes care of it. It doesn't matter. If they've got Yveltal in the back, I lose either way. But if they've got Melmetal or Dialga in the back, I need to hit them with something. Otherwise, I lose. So I have a calc here. This is no bulk Landorus because, like I said, I don't know what my bulk was because I've lost the spread. I know that it was something very specific with Zacian in mind. But I remember calcing it at the time. Basically, to kind of see if I was in range of everything. I want to say it was like 92 HP. It was something along those lines. But it put me kind of out of range, and I know that like the max cuts the Life Orb chip in half. So I max here, which seems kind of silly because obviously I'm going to be on like 5 HP at the end of this. But anyways, so I get brought down to 13 HP. So it turns out I would have been able to live the Life Orb recoil, which is, it's good. But that's kind of why I would max in that situation. That's also why I didn't go for the Airstream, because if they have quick attack, then my whole game plan fails, right? So then Zacian goes down, and I live because I'm max, but I also live just because I got a bit of bulk. So I see Dialga now, which for me is best case scenario, right? Well, actually, no, technically speaking, Lunala would be best case scenario. But it's not worst case scenario, which was Yveltal, which was just an auto loss. So what I'm thinking here is, like, because I have Assault Vest Yveltal in the back, this is a really pretty solid chance for me, because they can't set up electric terrain, which would be Dialga's only chance of maybe KOing my Yveltal. So they have to go for, you know, just anything. But I'm guaranteed a free hit because, like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm Jolly, because I don't like, you know, my primary Airstreamer being slower than the thing it's supposed to be at +1. So I know that I'm faster because Landorus is 1 base speed faster than Dialga. So I'm like, okay, great. This is I get 1 free hit off, but I only get 1 hit. So they max, obviously, because they have to. I go for the max guard here to waste a turn of their Dynamax, just on the off chance that Yveltal can't go for the KO here. So they go for the Hailstorm, which is good, because one, Dialga can only really afford to run Stab, and it needs either max Flare or max Ground to beat Zacian, which means that because they've got Hailstorm, they shouldn't be able to Oko my Assault Vest Yveltal, because they're not setting up the terrain, which is nice. But also, I feel like it was a bit silly, which you'll see in a second. So I get the Quake off. It does huge amounts of damage, but they still go for it, right? Because they could have gone for anything. Like, realistically, they probably should have went for Steel Spike, just in case I had my own Zacian in the back, or, you know, maybe my Necrozma or something. Just like any of those things to give them a chance to take the hit better. But they went for the Hailstorm, and I think it kind of bites them a little bit, because as you'll see in a second, they take 5% and then 3% from the Life Orb into the Hail, which I did the calc. Actually, maybe I'll just do a quick calc now. Right, Yveltal. I know I had at least 4, and then we'll go Dark Pulse. And then Dialga, because it is Life Orb, that implies as well that it's no bulk, which is, again, good for me, because the Life Orb ones are typically, so it's Dynamax. Oh wait, no, not Dynamax, sorry. Right, yeah. So, because they took the, that's the wrong game. Because they took the Hail Chip, that put them at 21%, right? Which, as you can see, it means that they put themselves in min roll territory. Like, they would need a bit of bulk, which they typically don't run, and I would need to min roll them, and even then the Hail would probably knock them out. And, you know, because I'm timid, I'm faster, like guaranteed, because I think I outspeed base 90s. I think I'm built to outspeed Kyogre, which speed ties Dialga. So yeah, them going for Hailstorm meant that they took their roll chance away, and then, you know, Dark Pulse just gets the KO, which is nice for me, obviously, because I want to win. So yeah, so that was an okay game 1. The Hippo was a bit of a problem, and I think if they played with the Hippo a bit better, it would be a very different game, because I didn't really lead particularly well into it. So game 2, I decide to lead well into it, and I'm just like, nah, fuck you, I'm gonna go Kyogre, and I do, because I'm like, I don't need Rain Up, because Water Spout's just gonna kill the Hippo, which is what I want, right? And even if they bring in like Zacian or Melmetal or whatever, I know that that's fine, because I'm just like, well, I don't need Kyogre anymore, so I'll just get the big hit off, and then now Zacian is in range of basically anything, right? And they go for Wild Charge, which I think was probably fine. If they had Play Rough, that might have been better, just because they take the Recoil, which puts them in range of literally anything I want to do. So I go straight into Marshadow because I want to steal the Spectral Thief boost. We saw in last game, because I was asleep before Zacian attacked, that I'm faster, right? So my logic here is I Spectral Thief, I take their +1, and then whatever they have in the back has to take +1 Marshadow on. Like, if it's Melmetal or Dialga, they have to take a +1 close combat. If it's Lunala, it has to take a +1 Spectral Thief. If it's Yveltal, it has to take a +1 close combat. Yveltal is probably the only one that won't take that will take the hit well, but it's still gonna chunk it, right? And they stay in, presumably just thinking that maybe they'll be able to get hit off, but again, as we saw, faster. And already at this point in time, I'm like, well, Marshadow's done its job, doesn't matter, Sash is gone, it's faster than everything else that they have. They bring in Yveltal. I'm not going to get too fancy, I just want to close combat, I just want to do big damage. But then close combat does like 30%, so I'm like, oh, this thing is bulky. Marshadow's always going to die there, so it's like, it's whatever. But I have Lando in the back, which is good, because I have Life Orb, Stone Edge. And also Leftovers confirms it's bulky. So at this point in time, I'm like, did I pause? I meant to. I considered going for the Airstream, but I figured it wasn't worth it because they're already ahead of me. And while the damage would imply that they're quite, thick, I still don't know how fast they are. Because like my Yveltal, for example, is thick and also fast. So it would, it would outspeed me if it was built similarly. Because it also could just be max HP, max speed. So I don't actually know. So yeah, with that in mind, I'm then just like, well, okay, the smartest thing for me to do is just go for Rockfall here, because that's got the best chance to KO, and I didn't really think I was in range of like anything kind of serious. Plus, because I have Swords Dance on my Landorus, it means that like say like they do close to 50%, or maybe they do like 40%, I can then max guard the next turn, and then I'm out of the big damage range, right? So they go for Darkness, and it does nothing, which makes me think that was based off of foul play, because obviously I've intimidated them, and if they're not any investment, it's not going to do a lot. Oh yeah, because as well, if they're foul play, that means that they were probably like, timid or modest or even careful, I don't know. Oh no, calm is the right one. Because that was literally like no damage. So yeah, with the amount of damage that it took from Rockfall as well, like that's definitely bulky. Because I'm Life Orb Landorus. Like I might not be max attack and I might be jolly, but it's still Life Orb. And it's still super effective. And I'm still a Landorus, but it did less than half, which implies that it's got a decent amount of defense investment. So which, maybe it was bold, honestly. It's definitely minus attack because of how pitiful its damage was. So as I mentioned earlier, I go for the max guard just to waste their last max turn. It just seems like the smartest thing to do, because I would assume Oblivion Wing is the move. I definitely know that they're not physical, so I don't need to worry about Fly. Something to maybe worry about would be Roost, but they don't go for it. They just go for Oblivion Wing. They get good damage off, honestly, but they're in Rockfall range, and yeah, it gets the KO. So I win that one. I win game 2. So we're back in it, baby.